Is there any other really required reading or required viewing or anything like that, like The Godfather?
When you watch The Godfather, you get some of the story, but you really need to read The Godfather because the action happens so much slower and you get the background of who this person is and how he isn't just feared, how he is really loved. You don't really get that in the movie. You know, you get the idea that he sort of lives through intimidation and fear, but the really magical thing about all of the Godfather sort of books is...
The Mario Puzo.
Yeah. If you read The Godfather, even just read... If you read the part where the Godfather is growing up in the neighborhood and how he gets his start... I can't remember if it's a Godfather quote. What I see for Ventrue is, if you have an enemy, then make a problem for him and fix that problem, and now you have a friend. I also like The Departed. The Departed is all about shifting alliances and the dangers of trying to be a leader in a world that plays by very rules that are derived from power. The fragility of that position is very clear in Departed. I like that.
Costuming advice. In general, Ventrue tend to be well-dressed, and gamers tend to be not able to afford very nice suits.
I can empathize as a grad student. My trick is a coat. You can be really scuzzy, and if you're wearing a coat, like not a winter coat, like a nice dress coat, what do you call it, like a blazer or a sports jacket, makes a big difference, and you can get it for like $20, or if you get a really out-of-date one, you can get it for like $5.
Did you say you should actually do research and find out what was hip in your Ventrue's time of embrace? And
oh, that'd be great. It depends on how you want to play the character, though, right? Like, how adaptable are you? It doesn't make sense to be stuck in your time of embrace if you're Mr. Adaptive.
Your clan flaw, it's kind of a weird one. It's not super obvious like the rest. It's more between the player and the ST rather than something other players can use against you. Or is it? Talk about your clan flaw.
I don't play Vampire because I like the 30 Days of Night. That's great, but that's not why I play. I play because I like the gritty, nightly struggle to survive. Feeding is all about that. So if you have a game where no one ever thinks of feeding, you're barely playing a vampire game. So I would like to see a game where there's much more of a struggle just for the nightly task of finding blood. And I think the Ventrue clan flaw can be vicious that way. If you have just a little bit of heat for everybody, then putting that extra exclusion on there gets a little uncomfortable. And then if someone finds it out and puts that double heat on there, you have a real problem. And I think that's something that we've done a little bit of, but I'd love to see more of. I've seen people come in with ridiculously restrictive, like a particular line of mortals. I mean, that could be as few as like however few you wanted, but all descendants of this guy, or all descendants of me.
So as far as picking one when you come in as a character, is that a consideration of your concept? Or?
It's huge for your concept. It's like one of your main things as a Ventrue, right? I think it's a shame if you don't think of it very much. That's like a really telling and private thing, I think.
That's kind of unique among the clans too, isn't it? I mean, like Nos, they're ugly. Toreador, love art. I mean, Ventrue is the only one where the clan flaw is itself a secret.
Yeah. I like playing with the idea of how the prey exclusion passes from sire to child. Does it flip in opposite? Is it inherited? I think that's pretty fun too.
What is the clan advantage for Ventrue?
So a lot of this depends on the gaming group you're with. But if you're in a group that really adheres to the Ventrue making a public, unified face, then that can be a really huge advantage. And the mechanism of the advantage is the right of succor. So if you say, "Oh, my cousin, I beseech thee, please aid me in my time of need," then that trumps almost any other considerations, and that is massive. I've actually seen that pull people out of character-ending dilemmas and that's great. That's a huge advantage, and there's not even really a rule or anything. It's just a cultural advantage.
If I came to you tomorrow, I was like, okay, rolling up a Ventrue, what thing would you warn me off of? Not necessarily, oh, don't be this because it's overdone, but like, how could I unintentionally gimp my character as a Ventrue?
So one problem I see when people think of making characters is when you make a character, you're almost making the past of the character. Like anywhere you want to grow into, you can grow into things like drive, but you'll never grow into things like maybe very slowly you can grow into things like mentor, status, generation. And if you're trying to have a character who has gravity, has gravitas in the Ventrue society, like I said before, it's a really ossified, like calcified group. If you want to be top man on the totem or bottom man on the totem, you're going to pretty much be stuck there throughout the arc of the character, unless you're exceptionally lucky or long-lived or something like that. So I would warn you, like, get those mentor dots, get that generation, get that clan prestige, because that's the kind of thing that makes the first impression that makes you who you are on the hierarchy, I think.
Okay. You want to talk real quick about the Sabbat Ventrue in general, just real quick, that they're apparently warriors? They like to go out and fight? I mean, is that something that's intrinsic to Ventrue, or is that just Sabbat Ventrue?
So one thing I enjoy about Ventrue is that there's a lot of lip service, right? We take on the burden of leadership and sacrifice. But really, those are the Sabbat Ventrue. I mean, the Sabbat Ventrue are the ones who are still upholding their chivalrous medieval knights codes. The Ventrue and the Cam are pragmatists. They understand that it's power that makes right. It's not might. It's not honor. It's not truth and justice. It's raw, naked power. You know, Obama can stand up with his rhetoric and ideals, but he didn't make it to the top by not being just a total champ at manipulating every situation and every conversation into his benefit. And I think that's the fun of Ventrue, is not really doing anything yourself, but somehow sitting there like a diamond on the pile of crap at the end.
One of the RNU concepts I've had forever, and I'm just waiting for it to happen. The day Roger Ebert dies, I'm submitting a concept for Roger Ebert as a Toreador Posier.
Okay.
Because he literally
He's just a critic.
He's just this perfect as-a-done critic.
That's great.
Who's on your RNU list, you know, current or past in real life, as the perfect concept, the perfect way a Ventrue was played or is played?
Wow. Maybe Abraham Lincoln. I almost feel like Teddy Roosevelt is an interesting example. He really broke rules. You know, like at the time of Teddy Roosevelt, if you were as rich and privileged as him, you could have sat in your velvet chair sipping brandy with the good secret alliance of other rich guys and not ever lifted a finger. But instead, he was a man who recklessly even made his own destiny. And I think that's a really interesting... I don't know, he's an exceptional person while still being a total oligarchical, shadowy overlord figure, you know?